You know, mobile operation or portable operation wasn't always just this easy. If you go back quite a few years, equipment was still valve, so we needed a high voltage power supply. We needed something with about 250 volts on it. So we had to convert our 12 volt battery in the car to 250 volts with something like a dynamo or a vibrator pack. Well, I found some recordings that go back, audio recordings that is, that goes back 40, 50 and 60 years. I thought it'd be quite interesting to rummage through some of these recordings, take a listen to them and just find out what QSOs sounded like 40 to 60 years ago. So let's together explore some of these old recordings. Now, most of the audio recordings I'm going to use in this video were kindly passed to me by John Petter's G3Y PZ, who's a columnist in Radcom in the HF section, and also a keen AM enthusiast. And of course, because these recordings go back a long time, most of them are on AM. And we're going to start actually with some recordings made on the 160 meter band back in the 1960s, when that was really the chat band, now replaced probably by 2 meters, but 160 meters was the chat band. It was the band that many of us started our ham radio life on, including me. So let's take a listen to a few clips on 160 meters in the 1960s.
Roger, G3MV, G3TIO, G3TUO mobile, G3MCW from G2ARN. Very good afternoon to everybody, all loud and clear. Switched on the EC10 in the sitting room, heard you, George.
Okay, G3MV and the rest, G3TUO mobile returning. Okay, well, all stations 5 and 8, 5 and 9 now, called Tom is 99 plus. Good morning to you there, Tom. Just past Epping Green and the Cock and Magpie a few minutes ago. I must get that coughing job done for you tomorrow at 10. I'm awfully sorry. So I won't hold it. I'll pass it back to Morris as Master of Ceremonies. So you take it, Morris, G3MV and the rest, G3TUO mobile.
I have to appreciate, of course, that all the gear was valve gear, and as I said earlier, AM was the mode of the day. Receivers, well, HRO was popular, the R1155, I had an R107. And as regards the transmitters, because bear in mind, in those days, it was conventional to have a separate transmitter and a separate receiver. So as regards to transmitters, a high proportion of them were modified wartime equipment. There was very little ready-made equipment on the market in the 1960s, and what there was primarily American stuff, but I think the majority of us had to buy some war surplus equipment, modify it, or build our own transmitters, because there was no shortage of components then. There was plenty of components about, so it's very easy to build your own transmitter, and I think a lot of us went down that route. I did. My first transmitters were crystal controlled transmitter on 160 meters. I think it was on 1.980 because there was plenty of crystals on that frequency. So quite a few of us congregated at the top end of that, the 160 meter band. And I think, I can't remember what the valve was now. I think I had a single oscillator come PA, which was, what was it now, 6V, probably 6V6 I think, 6V6. And I then added a amplifier to amplify a carbon microphone in order to modulate the carrier, and you had to, in order to modulate, you had to purchase a modulation transformer. But again, there was plenty of those about, so it was basically a crystal oscillator come PA, all one tube, and an audio amplifier into the modulation transformer. That was my startup kit.
Well, for the benefit of Morris and Rowan, I'm running 10 watts to a homebrew rig. plain screen modulated. The receiver is an Eddystone 640. The antenna is 60 feet horizontal wire, 35 foot vertical feeder, straight from the TX up the side of the wall where the pole is situated at the front of the house. So I'm not using an ATU, it is straight feeding.
Notice no antenna tuning unit. That was because in those days with Pi networks you could get away with direct feeding a wire into the Pi network.
G3MCW replying. Hello, Ken.
Do you copy, Ken?
I can get as far as Chestnut, please. Yeah, what was that?
WM Mobile.
Yes, okay, they're, yeah, I've forgotten your name again. I haven't looked up when we worked last, but some time back.
Well, poor old Roland G3MCW got squashed out there. It was quite common to have breakers on the frequency actually, and I remember Roland very well. G3MCW had many QSOs with Roland. In fact, interestingly enough, after Roland and G3MCW died, I was sent a few of his QSL cards, including a QSL card that I sent to him. And it must have been one of my very first contacts. It was on 160 metres on the 3rd of September. I think I was licensed on the 1st of September. 3rd of September at 23:25. I worked Roland on 160 metres, and yes, it was on 1.980 kilohertz. That was the crystal I mentioned. We all had crystals on 1980 kilohertz. And I was running a 6CH6 crystal oscillator PA, in other words, combined crystal oscillator and PA, which was running 2.5 watts. And I was modulating it with a 12AX7 into an EL91. And that was my transmitter, completely home built. There we are, amazing.
So, cheerio one and all, and be seeing you.
So a simple question. How did one amateur decide to resonate his 160 metre mobile antenna 65 years ago?
So then we started off and wound a rough coil and put an oscilloscope and a signal generator into the boot and resonated the coil from there, from the number of turns, if you understand what I mean. We just fed a signal into it from the signal generator until we see the coil would accept it on the oscilloscope, and then we pruned our coil from that, you see.
Now here's a video clip from Radio London. I don't have a note of the dates. I think it might have been 1970, 1980-ish. It involves Leslie Cox, who I don't know his call sign actually, from the RSGB, being interviewed by Sylvia Margolis. Now Sylvia Margolis, I think, worked as a radio reporter or presenter for a while. She also worked for a period of time at the RSGB in terms of customer relations, I think, something like that. Her husband was G3NMR Morris, and her son, Laurie Margolis, G3UML, I hope I've got the call sign right, is still very active on the bands. Anyway, listen to this. It's effectively an advert for the Harlow and District Amateur Radio Society's mobile rally.
Now, the Harlow and District Amateur Radio Society are holding a rally of radio amateurs today, starting at 9 o'clock. In fact, they started at 9 o'clock at Netterswell Comprehensive School, Harlow. Possibly the only contact you've ever had with the world of radio hams has probably been through someone like Tony Hancock in the TV show, trying to rescue disaster victims and playing chess with friends in Malaya. But there is a social side to the hobby, as Sylvia Margolis found out when she talked to the president of the society, Mr. Leslie Cox.
Well, an amateur radio rally is a get-together of radio amateurs. They travel to it in their cars, and most of the cars are equipped with amateur equipment, receivers, transmitters. And to get them to the place, we have what we call talk-in stations.
It's like sort of police cars or taxis.
Not exactly, it's something like it, but has a far greater range, you know. We can
I don't think so, Sylvia, but anyway, the President does go on to explain that amateur radio is something slightly different from police cars and taxis.
With the mobile, go again please, the group G4AOP, bye.
G4AOP, G3, X-ray, Yankee, X-ray.
particularly in Buckhurst Hill. It's great to work AM, of course, the superior mode and the best band, HI. Though I have got a dreaded black box on board, it is very useful, I must admit.
Well, there we are, some recordings that go back, 60 plus years. And some familiar call signs to me, because those recordings were taken in and around Essex, and I've always been an Essex lad. So I do recognise some of the call signs, and of course worked some of those stations. But it's fascinating to hear the delivery and how things worked in those days. Separate transmitters and receivers generally, or the transceiver had started to come on around about that time. KW Electronics had introduced the KW2000 and so forth, and things were progressing towards SSB, and AM was not fading out exactly, but AM was no longer the dominant mode for phone operation. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed those few clips. I found them, and I thought I'd put them up on the YouTube channel, because some people might be interested. If you've got any clips going back quite a few years, well, feel free to send them to me and we'll all enjoy them. In the meantime, thank you for your support on this channel, it's much appreciated. Thank you for support at the shop and on the website. And as usual, you enjoy your ham radio, you take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.
Anyway, thanks for the contact, it's been very nice having this chat, and I'll send out greetings to the listeners, and to Gladys, one of Gladys I've heard in the background, and Terry, John and May if they're listening, Cyril and Gladys, Ron, Four and Eileen, Charlie James, Chef KFW, Jack and Wolford Green, Dave Perry, John and Grace, Les and Hilda, John EBF and Winnie, John VHH and Annette, Frank of Brentwood, Jim FUP, Stan and Gwen, Mike DME, Keith's brother-in-law, Brian and Liz, Jeff ZOF, Stephen Rayner, Peter CMD, David FKI, Bill of Rush Green, Laurie DXJ, Steve of Bill of Ricky, Bill Duck, Jack and Babs, Eric and Betty, Tony IOP and Audrey, Peter FQF, Philly GU, Ken, Dave RCQ, G3DOX, Dartford Gardner, Dick and Rosie, Peter BLG, Bill and Molly, John KKT, Bert 8KO, Keith of Walthamstow, Tom and Una, Derek CEU, Bill RQQ, Reg ANB, Ted AOK, Roy DES, Will and Evelyn, Arthur KPJ, Ron TOF, Barry of Northfield, George of Debden, Arthur of Raynham, Tom JTS, Morris of Biddy, Keith of Chapel Heath, and John PQ, and any other listeners. Happy day to everybody, and this is G3VUN signing now, listening on the band for a few moments.